had been its foundation, and a weather-bleached 4x4 privy 30 feet from what had been the back door. A short run on a cold, wet night. Somebody had dismantled the house for the lumber, more than likely. By the windmill's color, that somebody had to be C.C. Tarpley. Old C.C.'s still spreading out, Hewey thought idly, begrudging him nothing, curious as to why he hadn't taken the privy too. It looked lonesome, standing there by itself. C.C.'s water would be as wet as anybody's. Hewey looked up at the 2C's brand, painted in red on the mill's white tail, which automatically held the fan into the west wind to keep the maximum driving force on its angled wooden fins. The slow turning activated a sucker rod, which clanked and shuddered down the center of a pipe reaching deep into the ground. Each stroke of the rod brought up cool water from the dark depths of the earth, rhythmic gushes, pumping it into a big dirt tank which long hours of man and mule sweat had scooped from the ground. Hewey swung his right leg across Biscuit's rump, holding the leg high to clear the rolled blankets and the war bag of miscellaneous cowboy accumulations tied behind the high cantle. Over that cantle was stretched a dried rattlesnake skin, supposed by many to ward off rheumatism, which became a mark of the trade for cowboys who survived the other hazards long enough to acquire it. Some said it also helped prevent hemorrhoids, another ailment common to the horseback profession. Hewey doubted that, because he had them. He stretched himself and stamped his feet to stimulate the blood and to steady his saddle-cramped legs. He unbuckled the girth, slid the saddle from Biscuit's back, then led the horse down to the water's edge to let him drink. Not until Biscuit had taken his fill did Hewey tie him to one of the tower legs and prepare to get a drink of water himself. He lay down astraddle the heavy pipe which extended from windmill to tank. He pushed carefully out to the end of it. The pipe was pleasantly cool. He held on with both legs and his left hand, cupping his right hand just under the mouth of the pipe. He drank thirstily from the hand as the water pumped out in time to the mill's even strokes. It was good water, carrying only a faint suggestion of the jip common to much of West Texas. Water was a thing to be cherished in dry country. A man prized a good sweet well the way he prized a fine horse. Hewey finally took some of the water up his nostrils and choked. He decided that was enough for a while. He inched his way back along the pipe, misjudging where to step off and sinking his left boot into the mud. He talked to the boot the way he was accustomed to talking to his horse. "Won't hurt you none. Damn little mud you'll ever get on you in this country." Inside a small plot which had been the homesteader's garden, green grass was coming up between last year's plowed rows and the fence. Hewey led Biscuit there and turned him loose, fastening the sagging wooden gate to keep him from straying off. He watched the horse roll in the soft dirt, taking up the sweat where the saddle and blanket had been. Hewey was vaguely disappointed. He had counted on a noon meal from the homesteader, even if only some rewarmed red beans and hog belly. Well, at least the horse could graze a while. Hewey would make do with a cold biscuit and dried-out bacon brought from the 2C's line camp, where he had stayed last night with old cowpuncher friends. He might brew himself a can of coffee, too, after a while. Right now he wanted to test the water in that tank. He emptied his pockets and piled their contents on the bare tank dump. They didn't amount to much, a couple of silver dollars, and some smaller change, a Barlow knife, a sack of Bull Durham smoking tobacco, and a book of brown cigarette papers, a wallet containing his life savings of $27. He set his boots beside his treasure. On them jingled a set of scandalous gal-leg spurs, the shank shaped like a woman's leg, silver-mounted to show the high-heeled dancing shoe, the stocking, the garter on a plump thigh. It took a sport to wear such as that. He clutched his sweat-stained cotton socks in his hand and waded off into the tank with the rest of his clothes on. The deepest part came up barely past his thighs. He took off his faded jeans and washed them out, then his shirt, and finally his long-handled cotton underwear that once had been white. Naked except for the hat, he walked out with the wet clothing, squeezed as much water from it as he could, then hung it piece by piece to dry in the sun on the bottom.